Hello, my music-loving friends. Today we are going to be adding a note reading diagram to your book. So presumably you saved that other third of a piece of paper that you haven't used yet, and you need that for today's work. So let's get right to it. I have it landscape, so it's going like this. And the first thing that we're going to do is fold it side to side in half, and we're going to do that 3 times. All right, so here we go. First time, line up the corners, press it down, start your fold, smash the fold. That's 1. Need 2 more of those. So here we go. Again, this way. Folding, pressing, good to go. One more time, folding it. All right, you see I just pinched it instead of pressing it to the table. At this size, it might be easier. And smashing that down. All right, so now I'm gonna open that up. And the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut off 2 columns. Okay, so you see your fold lines. Here's a fold line, here's a fold line. And on that second fold line, I'm gonna cut that off, and that little scrap goes right in the recycling. All right, final fold for this little bit. We are gonna go top to bottom 2 times. So here we go, top to bottom, get the corners lined up. Start the fold. Give it a good solid crease. And then again, and this is one of those occasions where I think giving a little curl in your hands is a good idea. Then get those corners together. And this one does not want to do it. All right, there we go. I got it. Pressing it to the table, folding it up, and good hard crease. Now those are all just organizational lines, so I'm going to open that up. And now we have this beautifully organized piece of paper. The columns are going to help us to organize what string we're talking about. And then these lines are going to help us to draw a nice, neat staff. But before we do any drawing on it, we're going to glue it into your book. So you know how I do. One side's going to be stick, one side's going to be liquid. Here we go. Okay, friends, so we have this piece glued in. We have our organizational lines. You might have noticed that I recommended you might want to use a ruler in this one because we want some pretty straight lines on this. You don't have to use a ruler, but I am going to use one because we're going to be making a staff that's a little bit smaller than we've made in the past. So, grabbing my ruler here, I am finding this middle line, but I'm also observing where this final column is. I know it's very hard to see the fold lines, but if you look at yours, you'll notice you can see a fold line right here, and we are not going to draw our staff past that line. We're only going to draw our staff over here. So I'm going to start right on that middle line, and I'm going to start on that side. Even though normally I would go from left to right, it's a little bit easier if you go the other direction so you don't accidentally go into this little space over here, which we need for writing something later. So I'm putting my ruler right along that middle line. If you're not using a ruler, you're just drawing along that middle line. And for this, I am using an unfancy black pen just so that I'll have a really clear staff. We'll talk about that term in just a second. So here we go. Here's that line that I was talking about. So I don't draw over here. I'm starting here, I'm going all the way across. Voila. Okay, now you have 2 other lines from folding, and since a staff has 5 lines, we're going to put a line on this fold and a line on this fold and then some lines in between. All right, so let's do the one that's on top here. So I put my ruler right along that fold line. Again, you don't have to use a ruler. Remember this line where we're trying not to write over here? I'm starting right there and I'm going across. So it looks like so. Find that bottom fold line. We're going to draw a line right along there. All right, I've got my ruler in place, not drawing in here, starting my line on that fold line and going across. Okay, so we need 5 lines, right? We're going to put one evenly spaced here and one evenly spaced here. If it's not perfectly evenly spaced, we don't sweat that. That's fine, but we're going to try. So I'm going to start by making a little mark in what I see as the center between this line and this line. And then I'm going to try to draw a very straight line that goes from that dot to the other edge. And I'm making sure that my ruler looks like it's lined up with the line above. Starting here on this fold line and going across. That looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to do the same thing in the bottom. I want one in between here and here. I'm going to put a little dot where I want it. And then put my ruler down. I'm going to make sure it looks as straight as can be with the line above. And then I'm going to draw my line. I'm not going to panic if it's imperfect. Looks pretty good though. Okay, so now we have our 5 lines, and I already called this the staff, but you have to remember that it's called that, so we are going to label it, and we're going to write directly on it. So turn your book a little bit and write the word staff right here along with me. S-T-A-F-F. I didn't even mean to line my F's up with the lines, but it just came out that way. All right, so that is the staff. That is like a little chart that we write notes on. We're going to get more into that as we go. So now, because you are a violinist, you need a treble clef, and you've seen this on your music. It looks very fancy. So I'm going to actually draw this twice, and the first time I don't want you to do it with me. I want you to let me show you how to draw it, and then we're going to go back over it together. To draw a nice treble clef, you have to draw a little spiral that starts around the second line from the bottom. So I'm going to start my spiral and I go around that line and I keep going around in a spiral. I touch the bottom line, and when I get back up to around where I started, I take a little pause because my treble clef is going to go in a new direction. It's going to go up and to the right, and it's going to hook over. And then I'm going to start where I just left off and draw a line straight down and put a little hook on the bottom. So that's a pretty neat looking treble clef. Let's do it together. All right. Start just below the second line. Here's the first line from the bottom, second line. Start just below that. Start a little spiral that goes around, touches the bottom line, and comes back up to just above where you started. Then we start going in a new direction, off to the right, up and around in a little hook. I had a teacher who used to describe this as looking like a swan. That's kind of fun. So then we start where we left off. We go straight down through our previous work and we make a little hook at the bottom. Do you remember what I called this? It's called a treble clef. So because I want to get the spacing right, I'm going to start with the word clef. Clef is spelled C-L-E-F, and the treble is spelled T-R-E-B-L-E. And then so that I don't forget what that goes with, I'm going to put a little arrow pointing at it. So while you finish that up, a treble clef means that you play a high sounding instrument. So you would see this on music for violin or the flute or for the right hand on the piano, among other things. So that's all we're going to do on your diagram for today. Next time, we'll add some note names. See you then.